Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for the introduction as well on the stage where you had two players there battling it out, playing the mind games before we get into it. Because, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the grand finals of AEC here live in Morocco, Casablanca. And of course, here on the caster desk is me, Eterna, alongside with Mirko as well as Naisu to bring you the entirety of this best of 3 grand finals.
Love to be here. This is our first trio cast, by the way.
Yep.
So if you guys have been watching for AEC up to these past 4 days, this is us bringing the action trio cast style, and what better way to have it in this best of 3? It's kind of crazy that it is a best 3, obviously between Egypt and Morocco. But again, they've already locked in their slots to Riyadh later this year, and we'll see how they perform fighting for that first place here.
Yeah, at this point, they're really just fighting for seeding for WEC 24 in Riyadh later on, and also technically they're going to be fighting for pride, because especially for Morocco here, this is the fullest I've seen the stadium, at least for MLBB, right? Don't know for all the other games, but the fact that we have so many people already supporting them, even earlier, before we even started, we got people dancing, clapping, and supporting Morocco all the way from the start. So, I don't know. Do you see it as pressure, or do you see it as like an added bonus? It's just like motivation for the players, because it does seem like for Ayato at least, he wants to prove to the people that they are here to take the trophy, to take back, or maybe to start things off with a bang for Morocco.
Yeah, I think we discussed this a bit already, like through the course of especially the playoffs here for the MLBB men's. It could be, there's an argument to be made for both, right? There's added pressure, but there's also added support, and of course the morale boost coming through. But ladies and gentlemen, here are the brackets. This is the past 4 days that we've seen, right? From Morocco being able to win it over in the upper brackets, and then they were able to get into the grand finals, as well as Egypt. And so far, both of these teams have not suffered a loss just yet, right? Both of these teams have still gone undefeated in their own right, with Morocco stepping in after the African Open qualifiers into AEC straight. But for the most part, Morocco has also shown promise, right? They've shown potential, and it's going to be an exciting matchup against Egypt today. Perhaps maybe our first best of 3.
I hope so. I hope we have 3 games going the distance here, of course, because I know I already mentioned it, but once you only have this best of 3, and you get to a best of 3 for a grand final, and yeah, they've already locked in the slots for WEC. Obviously, with our game of MLBB, you love to go ahead and see them battled out, 5 games, 7 games like we usually see. But so you have to kind of think on your feet here and go through the best of 3 already. We're going to take a look at the lineup for Egypt. Once again, let's go ahead and reintroduce them. It's Shen, Joki, Speedy, Kenji, and Alpho. And we just saw Alpho on stage. It seems like they're not even worried about this matchup against Morocco, even though probably the majority of the stadium here is going to be rooting on the home team, Morocco. Egypt has felt so confident in their capabilities that this might just be an easy win for them, according to Alpho.
This has been the case for the longest time, I feel, for Egypt, all the way from the African regional qualifiers that we had online even. They looked at it as an experiment, I feel, right, and I do, because it almost seems like they already had the game, the qualification under their belt. Even here in the finals, we saw them in the interview, despite being against the odds technically when you're here in Casablanca, everybody definitely supporting Morocco. Alpha was still coming up into the interview as confident as ever, just saying, yeah, we're not even looking at this event right now. We're not even looking at the grand finals. We're looking at MPL, because we're going to win this for sure.
So for the opposing side here, Morocco, we have Yanastis, Kenji, Albert Rostein. We have Super Rival as well as Ayato. So again, for this team, as well as the Egyptian team, there still have been no changes to their main lineup. We don't see Heisenberg playing as well for Morocco. Still going to be Kenji as well. And, back to that point, right? What can we say would be one of the reasons how Morocco would win this? Because obviously, if we're asking the crowd, we know they're favorites.
Yeah.
But I think people, especially through data, through statistics, through history, Egypt is currently the stronger team.
I would say let them do what they've been doing even in the online qualifiers, but now let Ayato shine. I mean, the guy has been performing time and time again, and Super Rival as well, when he gets his hands on one of those assassin junglers. We all know we're in the assassin meta right now. They can actually use that to their advantage, especially against a team like Egypt. Any team that wants to face off against a team like Egypt, this was the same case for the women's team, they need to be able to control the early game. I think that's the biggest factor there, control the early game, get the momentum in their favor. So if Morocco can do that, then I would say that they're well off their way to getting a victory here.
It's just really tough right now for Morocco, right? Because obviously for Egypt, even though they've been winning a whole lot of the matches that we see at AEC 24 on the offline stage, they've also been technically hiding a lot of strategies. They've been picking up a whole lot of the cheese picks. We saw this man right here on your screens, ladies and gentlemen. He's actually going to say 2-0. That's his prediction. A bit different to Don Big, who's been pretty accurate himself. But yeah, back again to the point, Egypt, they've been utilizing crazy picks. I wouldn't even say cheese picks. It's literally just been ridiculous picks. Argus, Inspire. We saw a G-Long.
Yep.
And they played that in the side lane, a Hellkurt in the gold lane too. And just yesterday, I believe you said it was a Eudora.
Saw Eudora. We've seen a Layla. We've seen a Valir.
I actually really wanted to ask you what you thought about that, right? Because we saw Papa Koopa in the gold lane as well as the Mincetar for Speedy in the gold lane.
I don't know, man. At this point, Speedy, it just really feels like he's just confident, right? He knows that he's better than everybody in the gold lane. And this is where it might change. Because Ayato, he knows how to lane. That's been really, really impressive, I feel, for Morocco in general. Not just Ayato, obviously for me, that's the main guy. But if you take a look at Super Rival on the Assassins and the Hayabusa, the Lings as well, he's been performing out of his mind. And I think the whole team just complements each other really, really well.
I think part of this too, I know we're getting some glimpses here of the female team from Egypt. They just
and
won.
Velvet as well.
They won 2-0. They just won 2-0, so of course they're here to show their support as the boys play it out. But, you know, it was the same thing, like I said, for the female team. And I think for Egypt, if they just play standard, I think they're a strong enough team. They have so much experience that they'll be able to make it work. But I guess that's the story of at least AEC here in Casablanca was the fact that it's almost like every game too is when they brought the weird stuff out, you know, the niche picks, the crazy drafts, and it almost makes me wonder if they would actually do that here against a team like Morocco. Like, let's say they get game number 1, are they actually is it worth to them for taking a risk, picking something else? Because I always look at it this way, guys. I'm like, if it's in the game and you utilize it and you win with it, then it's fair game. It's obviously there to make use of it, and so far Egypt has been one of the best teams to do that through IESF.
They've just understood the core fundamentals of the game much better, and obviously, you know, they've had experiences everywhere in the world. Actually, we got an Indonesian flag, I believe, here. Shout out to, I believe, Indonesians in the crowd, or maybe just fans of Indonesia. We really don't know, right? We haven't met them at all, but hey, great to see that even in Morocco, we're getting a whole lot of the Asian representation. Anyways, though, back to the topic. Yeah, Egypt, they've had experiences all over the world. I think this has been a storyline that we've been bringing up constantly during AEC, is the fact that you take a look at all the other teams and you probably see new members, new names, new faces. But if you take a look at Egypt, these are names and faces you've seen in the international stage many times before. And if you haven't seen them in the international stage, you've at least just seen them in MPL MENA. They've had so many experiences even on stage.
I agree. But again, everyone's just really confident with the 2-0
Everyone's
here.
saying 2-0, right?
Is it okay to bring up Don Big's prediction here?
Don Big? Well, I mean, let's say, for an international viewer so they don't know.
Yeah.
Don Big. Who is Don Big?
Context.
Mr. Don Big.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Don. The Don Big.
Who is he? Hadn't heard of?
Don Big is an MPL MENA caster,
That's
right? But he has been behind the scenes coaching for both the Moroccan MLBB women's and the MLBB men's. So the success that both the Moroccan teams have found so far, it's all thanks to Don Big, because even the players I've mentioned, right? Don Big has been a big driving force for the team. They're very comfortable when he's around.
Definitely.
He's been helping with insights and just really guiding the entirety of the teams. And yeah, that's Mr. Don Big.
I would say, you know, he's such a character. He's such a great guy. We did meet him just recently over in Riyadh, of course, but his predictions have been pretty on point, you know, and he whispers it to us before the broadcast, right?
I don't think it's a whisper, you know. He just comes up and says, yo,
with the jersey.
Who do you think is going to win with the Moroccan jersey in
And
front
I
of the
feel
Moroccan
really pressured
crowd?
to say Morocco.
Yeah, you know, especially because
He is a big
he's just super passionate about his team, right? Super passionate about every single member, because he even gave us like a briefing on every single member. Oh, this guy, Yato, right?
Remember
He's
what
the
happened?
tornado.
The tornado.
If he gets hit with the quad, GG.
It's
GG.
GG. You
It's
know what
over.
happened the last time they won when they secured their slot?
Yeah, I was there.
We were there. He went from the casting desk over there and left his co-cast there, and he went and ran to the stage.
Don't
to cheer with
forget,
them.
he took off whatever he was wearing and revealed a Moroccan jersey
Moroccan
underneath
jersey.
whatever he was wearing.
And what I noticed, he did the same thing today.
Yeah.
So he's
Yep.
wearing double.
He's ready.
He's ready.
He's ready.
He's ready.
He's ready for it.
If Morocco pulls off an upset win, you guys know what to look at or what to look for later
for Don
on
Big.
stage. Not just the players, but you're going to see a tall man named Don Big.
I know, real quick too, since we're talking about Don Big, we got to give a shout out as well to our friend Yasu. right? I know he's been paying attention to this, watching this, of course, rooting for Egypt as well. And it's just, it's great to see. I know we already mentioned like Egypt doing great things. You know, they have so much experience, but I gotta say, even for the home team, it's been amazing because remember, we came in to Casablanca with no information. Like, we didn't get to see them in the online qualifiers because they were the host team, right? And so even for us, I feel like we all share the same sentiment. Like, when we finally got to see them play and the way that they brought, you know, that specific play style of theirs to the table here, and now they're in the grand final, now they're going to Riyadh later this year. It's nice to see another country that we don't typically get to see so much come out here and compete.
And if there were ever a matchup that I believe is very close to one another, I would say it's now. I think it would be Egypt and Morocco, because after everything you guys have mentioned about Egypt, the entire storyline of Egypt, Morocco kind of has a similar thing going for them, right? Sure, they don't have the best of international experience. Maybe that's what they're getting here at AEC.
Yeah.
But this is a roster that has been together for 3 years. They have found so much success in their local tournaments and their regional tournaments that they're now standing at a 9-month win streak.
9 months.
9 months of a win streak. So today will be the day to see whether or not that breaks. A 9-month win streak.
And in AEC, their game win streak too, because technically they haven't dropped a single game in the offline stage for AEC. Technically even online, because they didn't play. They got to qualify instantly here to the offline stage. But even Egypt has actually dropped games. In the group stages against Tunisia, game number 2 it was. So for Egypt, they have a tendency to be overconfident at times,
overconfident.
right? And I understand it. I understand where the confidence is coming from. They're obviously really good at the game. They understand that they are better, and sometimes they utilize these wacky drafts that make it work. Sometimes, though, if they put in too much of that brain power in the drafts, it does come back to bite them.
It does. That's something you definitely want to look out for, and I feel like that's also why when we think about their journey for Egypt, at least up to this point, it's hard to take notes of some of the stats because, again, like it's always the second game when they're like, yeah, we're going to do this, you know?
So I'm wondering if they're going to bring that again.
That's what I'm saying.
Because I feel like game number 1, that's like their moment where they're like kind of observing the patterns of their enemies, right? Is it possible for us to pull out something crazy in the second game? And then that's when they're kind of, you know, weighing things out. But they might do it again. I mean, if they think that game number 1, I guess it really depends on how game 1 goes.
You know what I'd say, though? Like, this is the perfect grounds for that. Like, our current meta that we've now seen, you know, globally and all the competitions going on for MLBB for the past, like, 2 months. Like, think about it. Like, that's the time we've seen the most niche picks, weird picks, cheese picks, whatever you want to call it, come up through some of these major tournaments. And so that's why I say, like, I love to see it because I'm just a avid fan of non-meta stuff working.
Me too.
And yeah, I know you are too.
3.
I don't know. Do we agree with Miracle? I feel like you're a very meta guy.
Well, it depends, right? In the gold lane, I'm not a meta guy. In the jungle, I'm a meta guy.
All right.
Depends
on the role.
Actually, it depends on the role, right? Depends on the meta too, because right now I'm an off-meta guy. I really love the fact that we have a lot of these crazy picks come up. But back then, man, I was not a fan of a meta. Back in the utility era, you know, it was dark days for junglers.
That was a long journey.
It was a dark year.
2 years.
A dark era for the junglers. It was great as a gold lane, though. You know, you got to play the game. Mage as well. You got to play the game. Now with assassins, it's a bit tougher to play the game, but it does make it much more dynamic. You get to see a lot of the fights happen, and even just more strategies coming around with the Lord change happening, with the assassins coming in as well. Some teams can prioritize going for Turtle, but Turtle isn't an obvious answer to get a win anymore. You know, like these objectives, you can actually let it go, trade on the other side, and still get a win.
But that's the thing that I feel like has been lacking, right? I think a lot of teams here lack that foresight. I think like they tunnel vision too much on the objectives that they don't look for traits elsewhere, despite them not having the best of early game comp.
I feel like that's just a result of being in the dark era for so long. Like
you can contest. Your mind is built to contest.
Yeah, like you know how long it takes to break a habit, right? Like this is the thing. When you're trying to break a habit, it takes time, and so far.
Is it 20 days? Is that the theory?
It's the theory.
20 days
it's
to break
20
a habit?
days to break a habit.
I think it is.
I know my friends
right?
at home, and they don't break habits after 5 years. I don't know what you're talking about 20 days here.
So if we're talking about gamers here for MLBB.
For pro gamers, it'll probably be like maybe 20 days. For like normies like me, it'll probably be like a few years. But hey,
they're getting there.
Take life, one
step at a time. Nice.
I like that got so deep.
Shout out to normies.
It's been like that since this morning, by the way, guys.
What?
Things just getting really deep.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to this. You were saying something, by the way? Did you want to continue, or did you forget what you were going to say?
I was completely thrown off track by how it
Habits.
takes 20 days to break a habit now. But no, I think that's the point, is like, they were in that mode for so long that some of the other regions, I mean, we actually saw this from teams that were still in those dominant regions. Like, it took them a longer time to adjust than some other teams, you know, and I think that's just the result of being in a very specific play style for more than a year. And that's why I'm saying, like, I'm a very big fan of where we are now. Not just because, you know, Assassins are on the rise and everything like that. Like, I actually don't like playing against Assassins as a mid main.
As a gourd main?
Yeah, I should say as a gourd main.
Yes.
I can only use Flicker about once, you know, so once
Win a
every 2
crown.
minutes. Win a crown.
First item.
But yeah, I don't think that's going to work, right? But we'll see how they adjust again as we jump in here into the draft for game 1.
So let's get it, ladies and gentlemen. Here it is, the grand finals, game number 1, drafting phase. It looks like Morocco is going to be first pick here, with Egypt on second.
Whoa.
And we already see that Luo Yi ban coming through. This is, again, something that is a pattern. I would say that Luo Yi is still priority ban, or not.
Like here for AEC. Specifically.
For some teams too. It's not just all teams, right? Because we have seen the Luo really not banned out at all for the most part, but then certain matchups, certain teams, they get the Luo still banned out. And I think for Egypt and Morocco, both these teams have been really creative, utilizing the mid-prio to get the Luo to look for more initiations. And if there's a pattern that we can find in AEC, is that early game usually gets the job done. And if you get game 1, it's usually just over. That's how big of a momentum
Especially best of 3.
grab you get after game 1. And like you said, best of 3, but the Hylos, there you go, gets
That's
respected.
a great ban.
Yeah, I
Great
agree.
ban. And I think part of it too, I'm not sure on the exact statistic, but like our average game time here in AEC is very quick.
Yeah.
I would say the majority of games are ending like even after the first Lord, for the most part. You know, and I know right now if you guys are watching competitive MLBB, there are a lot of games going the distance. You know, some of these games going 20 minutes plus, but so far, for some reason with AEC, it's like, it's more of the region as a whole, it's very snowbally, not just from the match to match, because game 1, if they get it, they have momentum, but even within the game, we're seeing a lot of teams get early, you know, triple kills, maniacs even before the 5-minute mark, and then they just kind of scale out of like the game, basically, way too fast.
Honestly, my personal observation is just like African regions, they love to fight.
I agree.
Right? They love to fight, and they just keep on fighting. So for teams that
Very
are getting
aggressive.
ahead early game from the fights, they're going to get even more benefit out of it when teams that are not in a position to fight still want to commit onto the fights.
Exactly.
So it's a domino effect. I don't think the macro play has been a big highlight for a lot of these African regions, but speaking about macro, right, the chip again also banned out. Terizla has also been eliminated away from Egypt, and now Morocco pick up the Roger.
Good respect, I would say, from Egypt, right? And now Morocco, they just go for the Roger pick, and now you kind of understand why they went for the Terizla ban. Someone that can actually withstand some of the damage that Egypt want to play with. That's a Ruby flex with the Ling. Very confident pickups from Egypt, and I believe this might be the first time ever that we see Kenji on a Ling. Usually we see more on a, well, still Assassins, but like more on the Rogers, more on the normal kind of damage dealers, not on the flashy ones.
Yeah, he has, but not too often.
Not too often. No.
Yeah, and it like the way that is I guess it's a challenge too. Again, that we heard the confident words coming out from them before we got to this, and playing, like every time I see the Ling, I always say this on the broadcast, it's like that's the biggest confidence pick that you can pick up.
Exactly.
Like I'm going to play Ling.
Pick.
Yeah, it's an ego pick. I'm going to pick it. You're going to try to stop me, because everything we just said about momentum, that's the hero to do it. There's the answer though. We're going to have Harith and Edith locked in.
Oh, okay. And they also pick up a Zas to boot. So with all these, you know, mid lane bans coming through, you guys again mentioned, right, the importance of that mid trio. The fact that they now have the Zas prio is already a big step for Egypt for them to take control, because technically they do want as much control as they can to prevent any invades from happening from the side of Morocco, especially now that they've opted to go for the Ling ego pick. And again, right, all Assassins are very susceptible to that pressure in their own jungle, the fact that they can steal camps or even buy a lot of time and prevent the Ling from scaling at the proper timing. So it's already looking good, I would say, for Egypt.
If Ling is an ego pick, what is Zask?
It's a safe pick.
Yeah.
It's a safe pick.
For the meta, at least, it's a safe pick.
And that's why I'm wondering, because you saw the Ling across from you, why did Morocco not take the Zask?
Yeah.
I would have loved to see them actually take the Zask to deal even
agree.
with the Ling, because that would have been a great answer. And Harith, you know, Harith already, when you pick it up, you show the card of the Roger now. You know, for the most part. Like, you could have held on to that a little bit longer. I'd love to see them pick the Zask. That's not going to happen, though, anymore. So I think they just have to, of course, be able to stop that from the scaling happening here. And that's always the hard part. Like, whenever there's a Zask across from you, it's like, how do we get past this barrier? Like, Zask alone is like a bastion that you can't get through. Like, especially when he goes in big Johnny form. You know, it's too much of slow and damage to deal with. And then on top of that, they get a Grok.
So that's why they banned the Charizla.
Yeah. They banned out the Charizla to already deal with, you know, I mean, an XP threat, the Hylos as well. And by the way, this is a mid lane shutdown. Yanasties, who's been able to make so many plays happen for Morocco to get them a lead in the early game, is now forced on a hero that he might not be comfortable on. No Loyi, no Valentina, Lilia Kadita banned as well. And the Zax has been picked away, forcing him on a pick like a Faramis that, by the way, is actually pretty good against his composition.
I like it. Oh, there you go, Tigreal. Okay, I was wondering, like, what would be the answer also, and I think Tigreal works great for Zask. Oh, whoa, Phoveus. Okay, Phoveus is going to come to play, and this is, remember, if you haven't been watching for a while, he had a rework.
He did. It was a big one. This is the first time that we've seen him competitively, right? After the rework?
For AEC,
For AEC.
Yep.
What do we think about this Phoveus coming through?
He's a big dude.
We saw it twice in the American regional qualifier, right?
We did, yeah,
online.
we did. Online.
And it worked.
Okay.
But for AEC, they didn't touch him.
No, not at all.
Actually, at all. Unless it happened on one of the offline
So they
games.
saved it
I think so. This is
for this point.
This is a niche pick here.
I mean, technically they have the Harith to go ahead against. Who else dashes in that composition?
I mean, Roger too. Technically,
Roger.
the kid has a dash built in her kit too. But by the way, the Ruby is going to be going gold, yeah? The Phoebe is going to be going XP, and we'll have Zask with Rock in the mid lane. So it's a melee composition that they're going for, Egypt.
Okay, the Phoveus, again, I think, with the work here. We'll see how it ends up working out.
So let's go, ladies and gentlemen. Game number 1 in the grand finals of AEC. After months, after weeks coming into this, it has led up to this final moment between both of these regions. And let's just get straight into it. Let's get straight into the Land of Dawn.
All right, taking a look at the emblems real quick while things get situated and settled in here. Kenji is running the Warcry emblem. He's going to want to be getting that extra bit of damage, especially against this lineup. And I think part of this too, you know, you have to deal with Kenji. I think Kenji on the Edith is going to be great once he's starting to join those objective fights. Also with that, again, see them getting already set up here. I think the Phoveus, does Phoveus win the Edith lane? I just have not seen that matchup.
Me neither, man.
Like,
you know, Phoveus in my ranked games has always just been banned out after the revamp, and then we really haven't been able to see him competitively because of the global ban, right? The grace period whenever a hero gets revamped or a new hero gets released.
2 weeks.
2 weeks, 14 days.
We'll see how it works. I mean, right now it looks like, again, if we take a look at the lane matchups, how do we feel, Naisu, about Speedy on this Ruby against the Harith in the gold lane?
I think it's more of just the case of, let me just sustain the lane. It's most likely going to be a dead lane too, and that's why Speedy went with the Brave Smite, because you're probably going to get poked down, you know, especially when that Zaman Force is available. But your job is just kind of keep it together, heal back up, and kind of just be a stalwart in the lane until these fights break out, especially of the objectives. And that's what I would say is, so far we've seen Ruby picked up. She's been a priority pick for a lot of the teams throughout AEC and just competitively in general. And a lot of that is just, hey, burn your flicker, burn your I'm offended, do a little bit more with the Don't Run Wolf King, and you're okay. You know, you provide so much value to the team. So I think it's, like, lane-wise, it's not going to be that big of a deal, but it's more so of, can Ayato get that power spike switch for? There it is, the pull already, but I think it's going to be fine. More tanky, outward, cosine, high IQ, it's going to be fine.
All good for now, you know. I think for Egypt, it's been relatively safe. They don't want to really go for any fights without the purple buff being on the hands of Kenji. Meanwhile, for Morocco, they think the same way too. Now a good shove over. Are they not there? Zaman Force coming down. The wall charges Jin. Able to flicker off for a bit. Kenji finds a turtle. It's going to be traded in with a kill on Super Rival.
The crowd goes wild, but wait a second, they're not done.
Primal Wrath going to zone Kenji away there. And he will just be forced to use the Tempest Ablaze defensively.
All right. So again, it looks like Egypt are looking for aggressive plays on the map already, right? Looking for invades here, left, right, and center. Looks like Super Rival, though, is going to have a little bit of an advantage when it comes down to it. Look at the damage that he's actually putting onto Alpha. Not sure if he wants to actually commit onto this earlier on. But again, Morocco holding quite a, I would say, disadvantage, right? I think Egypt now hold that 800 gold lead, and look at Kenji again.
Finch poised, zoning Super Rival away from his own jungle, but they're really not able to get anything in that jungle. It was cleared up earlier.
I think at this point in the game too, you have some of the items falling into place now. You got a War Axe also just picked up here by Speedy. And that's why, again, you can kind of just let it be a dead lane. He doesn't really have to pay too much attention, and that's the, I guess, the thing of concern here. Does Egypt go ahead and actually try to make a play on Ayato? Because like we were pointing out before we got to the game was, Ayato so far has been the playmaker a lot of the times, really performing well, especially when he was getting his hands on the Mozkov. And we've seen Harith do a similar fashion for a lot of the teams that do go ahead and go with the pick. And so I think it's more so of the case of Egypt trying to find their lead, and if it's on a macro level, because you see them focus on these objectives, they already got that first turtle, they're most likely going to set up around the second one as soon as it comes up. That's the power of the experience that they've had internationally. It's more so of the answer of Morocco, like how do we answer that, especially with the fact you've got to go against quite a bit of a tanky lineup. You can already see here too, Alpha together. I know I want to take a look at the items, but all right, there's no fight breaking out. Turtle's going to be up here in a second too, and it looks like some of these items are falling into place. I gotta look behind my shoulder here too. Yeah, so we got Berserker's Fury now available here. Go ahead and work around it. The Ling is on the line at least for the first item, but look at the zoning happening.
Good job into the back. Kenji not really able to go for anything. Good implosion on two members. Good response over to Joki, still in the midst of it all. Doing some damage down there. There's a set. Another realm coming down. Alpha just jumping back and forth as Kenji already secured a turtle earlier. Shen able to get out, flickering out of the primal rat coming down. And now it's the Tempest of Blade from the Defiant Blade. Good stun with a sap. It will give Kenji the kill. Albert Raustein. A bit more damage. Alpha again just jumping back and forth. Getting another stack on that passive to give Kenji enough room to go for the double and to steal the purple buff away.
That was a huge advantage for Egypt, right? Two members taken down. They were able to get the neutral objective as well. And again, this is very similar to what we've seen from Egypt in the past. The fact that they're able to take control. Wait a second, Joki though. Okay.
All right.
Should be fine there. We'll be able to get out. And Ayato finally does join here. Just not that damage, but it looks like Egypt are still looking for a fight.
Hard, letting them up. Good purify out by Ayato. He uses the Zaman Force defensively, getting a few of those dashes to reset.
And I'm going back to the point here with everything that just happened in the past minute and a half or so. Egypt, the macro prowess that they have from game to game, this is what they're doing. I mean, look at this. They've already got themselves a 3,000 gold lead off of everything they've done, and it's only a 1-2 game. You know what I mean? So, like, that's the power of what they're doing here across the map, putting pressure in all the lanes.
Random offended from line together with the flinker. Alpha's unable to actually land that. Once the ultimate out, they don't want to dive this, at least not just yet. Kenji, Earth Shatter defensively in case Egypt decides to go in. Good barrier. Them down in that bush. Really walking up again. Doesn't have time offended just yet. Don't know Albert Rostein is actually in that bush. He has the quicker. He has the implosion. Decides to just shove himself back again. Gets covered. I'm offended. Now Stunlock with a wild charge. Despite the Earth Shatter, that's a good implosion onto all of their members. And it's a turnaround here as Alpha jumps back again. Speedy able to sustain back up. Kenji still getting caught. The Tweeted Diamond is a set. Now Lycan Pals, the backup coming down. Speedy able to escape, but not Joki. Super Rival getting the kill. That's Ayato as well. That is massive in the bottom lane for Morocco.
Whoa, 4 members taken for the price of 2, ladies and gentlemen. The crowd here at the venue here at Morocco Casablanca, they are alive and they are feeling it. They understand the implications of that entire team fight. And this might be the moment that Morocco come back.
Hey, like we said, Morocco, they like to fight. And it looks like that, because as I was saying, you know, Egypt playing on the macro level, we'll get the third turtle of the game, so they're still following that suit. But hey, Morocco, if you overstep us, Egypt, we're going to fight back, we're going to punch back. And that's exactly what happened there. Albeit, that was under the tier 2 turret. So that was Egypt, once again, like Mirko mentioned in the draft, or before the draft. Sometimes they get a little confident, maybe overconfident. They make a play like that and they get punished in the face. So with that, it's gotten Morocco back to a position where they have some control, but they're still working against a gold deficit. Some of these big items are kind of falling into place, though. At least, you know, you're having the Thunder Belt available now here too. You've got the Starlium Scythe now here for Ayato, so he's got a little bit more time to build up. But they're really just trying to hold on to as much space as they can here.
Whoa.
Conceal going to be used.
To the mid lane, that's Albert Rostein also concealing in. Kenji looking like around. But there's a 7-9 Infinity combo with the wild charge. Now what attempt to blaze on Kenji despite the primal wrap. They're not able to soak in the damage of that big Johnny. Look at him, still on the turret. Super Rival can only just watch.
And that's what we said, right? That's what we said. The Zask is such an important pick, not just for that mid-prio, but even in these particular situations when they're going in for these brawls, when they're going in for these skirmishes, him being in the front line, dealing the damage as well as absorbing some of that damage in the front line and that zoning potential from the little Johnnies, right, as we like to call it, is very expensive. It's very expensive. The value is there, but you know, there's something that I did notice. I think Egypt, amongst everything, I mean, you mentioned that it could be overconfidence, but do you think that with the fact that they put Speedy as the gold lane, or Ruby in the gold lane, that they're the ones that are working against the clock here as compared to Morocco?
I think so. I mean, you mean if they get to the late game, right? If Morocco's able to do it, Super Rival.
This is a 1v1 in the bottom lane. Super Rival on the Roger against the Assassin. No Tempest of Blades, doesn't even need it. Stone Cold Kenji saving his ultimate for the next fight.
Did I not say? That lane pick, pure confidence. That's an ego pick. He's going to go take that 1v1 anytime. And you can see why. He's got the items that he needs. So Hozclaw's picked up tier 2. So the crowd, I feel like at this point, now that we're in the game, is split. Like, there's a lot of Egypt cheering here. There's also, of course, a lot of for Morocco. But now it's the Lord. The Lord's going to be up. Egypt, total control of it, while the rest of Morocco is just kind of clumped up together here on the bottom side.
But they should be good, right? I don't think Morocco is in any position to contest right now. Super Rival on the Roger. He's 3 levels behind of Kenji on the lane, who is already at level 15. So even if they want to go for that 50-50, it's a lot more difficult. It's a big challenge, and I think Morocco understand this. They're feeling out that situation, and they're just going to turtle in their base, perhaps look for a proper opening in a team fight, similarly to how they found success earlier on, right? Maybe that's the answer for them.
It could be. Also at the same time, you saw that C. Halbert is also picked up. You were talking about Speedy earlier, and so far, even a gold lane Ruby, when it's locked in, it serves the purpose of utility. Like, that's your whole idea. That's the whole concept of it. And so far, Speedy has been that menace. Well, look at the damage coming out, you know, just alone from Choki. He picked up an early Divine Glaive, by the way. So he's got the glowing wand, Divine Glaive. Shields are going to pop here in the base. They got to get ready for the defense.
Bravo Lord in the mid lane, despite the fact that they don't really have a good siege composition. He might be able to take the base turret down just with the first implosion! Cancelled out by the wild charge. Down there's a set coming down with another realm, gives them a little bit more HP to play with. And our shatter into the back. The Tempest Ablaze is well timed. Kenji looking to go for it all the way. Alpha unable to get the last shot in. But take a look at the mid lane. Still, it's a win for Egypt. They lose 2, but they get a massive turret with the first Lord.
They get a massive turret. Great usage. Again, it's the first Lord. But also, that's to be said, once again, the value, the stock value of the Zaspik, you have to acknowledge it. Whether it's the Nightmare Response, whether it's the Big Johnnies, whatever you want to call it, the amount of damage and even the fact that he just cleaned up the turret gives them that little extra, you know, advantage to work around here for Egypt. And they further their gold lead. They're nearly 8,000 gold up ahead at this point. And so for Morocco, you're really wondering, how do they get back into this game? They only have 2 turrets down. They don't have any objectives. Well, at this point, they should be saying, are we scaled enough to go ahead and fight some of these skirmishes and possibly get a pick off from Egypt? And that's the hard part, because who is going to be the one to be able to do that? You have to rely on a great implosion, because look at the poking that is already happening, even if Super Rival tries to get some space to work in his own jungle.
Okay, I thought they were going to go for an engage there, but you know, with that push, luckily for Morocco, I understand the picture that you're painting here. It's a really bleak. It's very difficult for Morocco to come back from this, but against all odds, they lost the inhibitor turret in the mid lane, right? So wait a second though.
That wall charge might be a mistake. That's an implosion responded over. Alpha brought back under the turret. Has immortality, but he's going to be isolated completely from the team. The Dominator's descent will be dealt with. Joki was not in there. They lose out their XP.
Ah, so there it is, right? There it is. Like the mistakes are happening now in from Egypt. They're being very aggressive. They're opening up opportunities under turret. And at this point of the game, 12 minutes in, almost 13 minutes, Morocco, they're going to be catching up on these items. And again, back to that point earlier on, the fact that with that Lord push earlier on from Egypt, that they only lost the inhibitor turret in the mid lane, they don't necessarily have that far lane as an increased push for Egypt. So they can still work the map around. They can still work around it as well. They can still look for the setups on the far lane if that's the idea that they want to go for. But wait a second.
Knocked up and then pulled back. No implosion just yet. The Earth Shadow only to dominate is set. Kenji over the chase, forcing to conceal out defensively. Egypt looking for the fight. They know that they need a fight to end the game.
It's actually okay though. I mean, they used a couple ultimates too in the exchange. Whoa. Morocco knows this. Are they going to be able to get even in range to contest the Lord? I feel like they want to, but they're not sure if they have enough in the tank.
They have some big resources back up. Albert Rostein has the implosion back up again, but he doesn't have the flicker. Ayato is a bit overextending, but still was actually able to just walk out of there. Egypt not.
Still working on Lord.
Gonna go for the punish. Lord very low HP. Kenji gonna go into the midst of it all times of blades. Kenji wins out the retry battle. Good nether round coming down as Alpha keeps on jumping back and forth. Kenji picking up the kill there, and that's gonna be a double for him as he goes for even more. Rival losing out on his life. That's a killing spree for Joki, but Kenji is hunting for this maniac. One member left standing. Super Rival juking, getting the recon on the bush. And that's Nasties, who is going to be able to respawn with the passive, so they might have a chance to defend this.
Yeah, Kenji, he doesn't take the bait, right? He knows that this might be the opportunity to go in for the push, and he doesn't want to play into that trap, but here it is, the push coming through.
That's where Lycan bouncy and Nasties, no Netherrealm to play with, can only go for the Stampede, but Egypt take game number 1 in 14 minutes.
And that is a game number 1 here. There was a little bit of hope, I would say, for Morocco. And even with the power from the crowd here, it was unfortunate because really it just was like the switch turned on for Egypt and they just went and took the lead they had and ended the game there. I was hoping that, you know, we'd see some form of a fight for that Lord, but unfortunately there was a lot of hesitation coming out from Morocco and Egypt punished them for it.
I think there was an adaptation made by Egypt for that final team fight, right? Because the way that they lost those 2 team fights for Morocco was because Egypt committed as well onto everything that Morocco were putting through. So they pushed into the damage without anticipating the fact that Yanastis could still put out the nether round.
Yep.
So if you see in that final fight, the way Kenji did it was he went in, took the objective first, went back out, waited for the Netherrealm cooldown to stop and wait for the Netherrealm to finish, and then he went back in and dealt that damage. So that instant adaptation coming in from Egypt, just by that, like that small detail, was mainly one of the reasons how Egypt is such a scary team to go against.
And that's why I say it's the veterancy that they have.
Experience.
The experience that they have through the past, playing together. And, you know, they're going to make those calls. And like I said, really, when you're looking at Morocco's lineup and the way they're playing here, it's like Albert Rostein had to pull that high IQ implosion off. He had to be the guy to do it. And unfortunately, they just weren't scaled up enough because, remember, the gap, even at this point, they're 7,000 gold behind. They don't have enough fighting power. And even when they try to make a play like this, Egypt still presses the situation and they're not able to punish it fully the way they're looking for. And this was that fight you were talking about even before this. Just a great placement and usage as well coming out from Kenji. Almost gets the Maniac through this, wasn't able. But again, it's that veterancy was like, hey, you know what? It's not worth it. Let's just get to the base and end the game here.
Exactly, right? Not really going to go for the chase anyways, despite Kenji being on the road for that Maniac.
Yeah.
They took the discipline route, and man, I would just have to say Egypt are just so patient. Despite their composition being more of a composition that is looking to force a faster pace in the game, they were the ones to play it disciplinedly. They were the ones to actually wait on the desperate moves from Morocco as they got into the 14th minute of the game.
I think this is going to be the first game that Morocco has dropped since AEC, right? I guess the ones that we've casted anyway.
Yeah.
Because, man, and that's the big question, right? With a lot of these teams that have been on a win streak for so long, once you lose control over that momentum, do you still have the strength to continue forward and force a game number 3.
And that's the thing too, going back to our other question here, like, is this the time when Egypt does something out of left field, pulls the curveball with the double blades on it for game 2, but we're gonna look at the MVP here for game number 1. Of course, it's gonna be Kenji here, phenomenal game on the Ling. Again, we say it's the ego pick, and it was warranted. Great performance from him all throughout, 47,000 damage too. Even the item build that he went with, again, he even picked up Hospaz midway through it because he's like, I am taking some damage. I got to be able to heal back up from this.
That was the second item.
That was the second item.
Yeah.
So, it's just, that's the thing. I think it played really well, and it might warrant even a ban in the next game from Morocco.
I think, again, though, what I want to highlight for the Ling is the fact that he's intelligent on top of just being flashy, right? He knows exactly when to go in, when to stand on the wall to wait for the Netherrealm HP and the other resources.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go to a short break before we get into game number 2, match point of the Grand Finals. See you after. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for match point in the Grand Finals, championship point rather, for both of these teams, with Morocco once again head-to-head against Egypt, and Egypt picking up that first point in this best of 3. We're back on the English desk with me, Eterna, alongside with Mirko, as well as Naisu, and we're going to get straight into it.
Let's get into it. We're waiting for the draft, though, but so I don't know how far into it we can get just yet, but we can say this. It was pretty much, like, I want to say early game, I still had hopes for Morocco in game number 1. But with the lineup that was brought from Egypt, very standard, they played it to a T. They brought a lot of confidence with it. Maybe they overstepped a little bit here and there, but it was pretty a phenomenal game from them, And what was it, 14 minutes?
14 minutes and like 30 seconds-ish.
Yeah. So just a couple changes I think Morocco could do to get prepped up for game number 2 is, number 1, maybe take the Zas. Don't let it get taken. I think that was a big problem, and at least be able to go toe-to-toe with a Ling, if not just ban it out. Like, start with that, and because earlier in that first phase of the draft, I love that they picked up the Roger, but then they picked up the Harith.
Exactly.
They could have waited, and then really left that as a flexible kind of, where's this going? But hopefully that changes for the next draft.
Just like Egypt, right? Because they were able to use the Ruby really, really well into the second phase of drafts, basically forcing out some of the bans coming in as well, because the Moskov was banned out by Morocco. They actually decided to ban it out. That became a wasted ban slot because Speedy had his mind on the Ruby ever since it was picked up, and that's why the flex pick is so good. The fact that the Roger was picked up earlier and then they go for the Harith just cancels out instantly the pick that they could have utilized in the second phase. And yeah, I agree. I think if it wasn't the Zask, maybe go for some mid lane, another mid laner. You're already up against the Ling. Usually you would want more mid prio, right? Especially because you haven't seen the Grok just yet, or earlier. If they went for Lilia first, that could have actually been a way for Morocco to get the lead in the mid lane, pressure the purple buff early, and maybe get those proactive maneuvers at the start of the game.
So let's see if anything changes, ladies and gentlemen, as we get into the drafting phase here for game number 2. And from the bat, we do see that they have swapped sides, and we do see a Ruby being banned out, as well as a Hylos banned out in the first phase. So already some changes coming through, and it looks like Morocco is going to be respecting the Ling. So you mentioned the Ling earlier. You mentioned the Zask as well. The Zask is still up for grabs for now. And with Egypt having first pick, do you think it will be too expensive for Morocco to let that Zask slide?
If it's not banned out, it's left on the table. Egypt might just first pick it. But if not, too, we still have Chip left open.
Yeah.
We also still have a Roger that could be taken. I think one of those 2 heroes, other than the Zask, is probably going to be the priority from Egypt. Either works, and either way, like Chip so far has been a 50-50 for a lot of the teams in the AEC. So I could see this being first priority for Egypt even, because I feel like they would be one of the teams that's very confident with obviously utilizing the shortcut the way it should be. But they'll go ahead, finish out the first phase with a Hayabusa ban. So this also changes some of the course of the jungle matchup too. And that's why, again, I throw Roger out there, because this is the thing. Is this going to be a Zask ban? Or, do they go with something else here?
I think it's definitely going to be a Chip or Roger. That's the only 2 decisions they can make at this point. Because seriously, I mean, for the Zas, yes, it's a prio pick. It could be utilized by Egypt as first pick as well. But still, for the Zask itself, I feel like there are ways to counter it. There are ways to go against it, right? And it isn't even really fully first prio anymore, first pick prio anymore.
Whoa.
They decided to go for the Alpha, which I was not expecting, honestly, as first pick. We were talking about Chip being open. If the Roger wasn't picked up, I would definitely say Chip should have been picked up there.
Would you have said Alpha? Alpha.
Alpha for Alpha, just because of the name, I guess. But no, definitely not. Did you expect Alpha?
No, no.
Expect the unexpected.
I mean, it's Egypt, right? I had a feeling that maybe Zask wouldn't be that first pick, especially for Egypt. The fact that they like to, change things up, swap things around. But now Morocco, with the Turisla being opened up for grabs, they want priority in the lane, and of course some playmaking tools that they can utilize in these team fights. I think a Turisla would be solid, as well as, honestly, the Edith. The Edith is also opened here, a really great flex, but Morocco still stick with that, right? Morocco still stick with this Harith in the gold lane. They want that priority in their lane, but Egypt go for the Moskov here.
Yeah, instant Moskov response here to go up against the Harith. They're going to need an XP lane as well, but at this point, I feel like picking up a Valentina could be good too, right? We were talking about mid lanes earlier. Why I think Egypt didn't need to go for the first pick in Zask is because they're open to go for Valentina even. They can force out some of these big ultimates to be shown by Morocco, like the penalty zone, and it's clear right now that Morocco wants to go for a dive comp. They're going to have to add into the penalty zone with some more CC, and if they go for the Valentina, it definitely stops their, the window to actually go for Tigreal, to go for Minotaur even, or even Edith, like you mentioned. It would have been a great pick here. So they go for the Valentina, and now it forces Morocco in a spot where they got to make a decision. Either they double down on these big ults, try to overwhelm the Valentina, make it confusing, at least for the Valentina, as to which ult to go for, or they play it more safe. They go just for a mid lane, mid prio, and then set up for neutral objectives.
I'd love to see them take either a Minotaur right now or the mid lane pick. If maybe they go Vexana, something to play into this, because you're already, like you said, you're playing around the penalty zone, and you have a Zaman Force from the Harith, so double down on it at this point, especially. Take the challenge. Like, that's what Valentina is. Like, she is the challenge for you to go through the rest of the draft.
Though,
I would,
Lilia,
I agree, Lilia.
Lilia could work, but it's like, again, for Morocco, they have so many options, and I feel like they might be overloaded in the options that they have right now. Okay, there's the Lilia. Good call there. So this covers the grounds of trying to play around the penalty zone. These three already do a great job. So roaming options for them, like what would we put in the roam?
For Morocco?
Yep.
Oh man, instantly I think about Edith, Minotaur too, if they really want to try to go up against Alpha, because that is the traditional way to beat the Alpha. The thing is though, you're going to give a massive ultimate, maybe even two, and they didn't decide to double down on big ultimates. So the Lilia ult will definitely be out of, the radar for Valentina. I think right now, we'll take it step by step. Just take a look at what Egypt banned first, and then we'll see later what the best option becomes. Because I think Ruby also fits in here very, very well, but they can't go for it anymore.
I also would say that a Grok is an option for Egypt to pick up here as their roam.
Agreed.
If they want that prio in the mid lane again, I think we've been talking about it a lot. The Lilia clears so fast, but with the Grok and the Valentina, it might even up the playing field going against Morocco.
They go for the Tigreal ban, which is interesting. We were expecting this to be left open for the Valentina to have more chances to go for these big ults. They decide to go for the Nolan last. It's a chip ban as well from Morocco. So now we get to see Morocco with the pick. Yeah, Minotaur, Edith, right? Instantly you think about that, but do you really want to give Joki an open opportunity, an open challenge basically, to go ban for ban?
Again, I think by the way, there's Don Big.
That's Don Big.
Just for our viewers out there, we were talking about him earlier. That's Don Big.
Mr. DB.
Mr. DB.
With
DBCM.
the Nolan being banned out, I think that's actually brilliant, right? Because I think the two options now that Morocco have would be Julian and Nolan. And the problem is if they pick up the Julian, that's too much magic damage with the Harith in the gold lane as well. I think the one thing that Morocco has picked up in the jungle, if they still want to go for Assassin, is Lancelot. So Egypt, if they want to pick up the Ruby, I think that would be a big option for them to utilize. And Carmilla now is the option, so they're still saving that. So they're not allowing Egypt to kind of see what they're going for.
This is, if we were doubling down earlier, this is tripling down. Like this is now the Carmilla locked in, Curse of Blood, drop it into the penalty zone, or vice versa, do it first. And then your Zaman Force too is even going to do crazy things with a Lilia. So this is a very plain and simple lineup that Morocco is going to bring, where it's like, we just need to land these AoE setups, and we should win team fights. Yeah. Like that's pretty much the game plan. There Egypt though, the Thamus and the Minotaur locked in here.
Yeah, the Minotaur, it's a great option too, by the way. Like the Grok, obviously for clear, but maybe at this point they're just looking to kind of react as well to a lot of the picks coming in.
I had a feeling.
Morocco go for the Hanzo here. It's a good pick. It was a brilliant pick because Egypt, if they picked up something like a Yuzong or even an Arlet, then they would have someone that can actually dive into the back. But Morocco, now their Hanzo is going to be free for the most part. No one can dive to the back easily. Even the Alpha wants to go usually for just these fights, and he wants to take it front to back, going for the frontliners first. So this is a brilliant pick by Morocco. It's a great pick.
It's a signature pick as well for Super Rival.
Yeah.
So
Hanzo. Which is funny because over in the Philippines, opening week, Hanzo came to play.
Yeah.
So you can't knock it. It's a good pick for certain teams.
It's great. You know, it's very situational. If there's no dive on the enemy team, then you go for this, and that's why without the Grok, without the Yuzong that they could have gone for, or Arlet, it just makes perfect sense. And now the Hanzo's picked in, but they'll have to rely on the Hanzo getting farm. If this Minotaur and Valentina can clear out the waves, and if the Stamas can actually win out the lane, which is going to be what I'm expecting, they can invade very early on.
Championship point, ladies and gentlemen. As we get into it, into the land of Dawn we go. A game number 2. This could possibly be the final game that we see here over at AEC that will give that championship title over to Egypt, the first AEC so far. So the pressure is definitely on Morocco to force a game number 3, and let's get situated into the land of Dawn.
The Moroccan magic has carried them all the way from the start of AEC 24 here in Casablanca. It needs to happen here, that magic. They need to try to find it back again, because at this point, yes, Morocco have a great composition. They can go up against Egypt with this composition. Again, no dive to the back, so they have a way, many ways to actually tackle these fights. But if we take a look at the composition for Egypt, if they get the neutral objective game on their side, and if they get the snowball, it'll still be difficult for Morocco to even handle them. And yeah, glad you pointed that out. It is the Purify for Yanassi, so a lot of respect. And the Impure Rage, this is what we expect for Lilia over the Lethal Ignition, especially in the grand final setting. You'd much rather just have a bit more mana to play with so you can stay in lane and utilize the strength of the Lilia.
It's interesting though, right? Because the Lilia naturally has the black shoes in, but wait a second.
Already using the Spear of Alpha. Alpha and Roasting won't be able to see Kenji. They could be possibly looking for more, but they're going to back off after that. First blood for Egypt here. Big pickup already for Alpha. For Kenji.
That's a good start. That's a good start. I mean, you would expect that Morocco, having the Lilia and the Carmilla, that they would be able to gain control over the course of this map. But the fact that Egypt were able to pick up that first kill does hold on to their momentum a little bit longer. And back to that point, right? Lilia level 4 has black shoes, so you would normally see Lilia go for Flicker instead, right? Use that playmaking potential. But huge respect again on the Purify, as both of these teams are going to be collapsing on this turret.
He actually takes it without the retribution.
See if he's able to. Once again, going to be used, but Super Rival will go ahead and secure the objective, and now still going for the fight in the mid lane. Going to force Albert Rostina back. He's quite tanky himself. A huge penalty zone coming out from Kenji, battling it out once again. Quite low for Shen, but it looks like he's going to be able to survive, even with a revenge strike on him. He'll heal back up. No one going down in exchange. I'm actually surprised by that.
So this is already a change of tempo, right? This is already a change of pace and storyline coming in from game number 1, where Egypt were the ones to have control. Ooh, Super Rival playing a very risky game here. Should be able to dish out that damage. Is he gonna take him down?
He's gonna try, but okay. All right.
So back to that, right? Again, with Hanzo coming through for Morocco, we saw in game number 1 that it was very difficult for them to take control over these neutral objectives. And the fact that Super Rival is now on the Hanzo, it has alleviated that pressure, so hopefully Morocco can actually utilize that to cross over when we get into the mid game.
This is why Morocco's composition was technically just built for the Hanzo, right? If you take a look at it again, in the grander scheme of things, Morocco are literally just playing so that the Hanzo can get farmed. Egypt, there was no way they'd actually wanted to go for the neutral objective straight up like that. They actually wanted to go for the invade first onto the purple buff before they go for the fight. Penalty zone, though.
The zone already been used. They get the vengeance out from Alpha. Jumps in on out. It's going to be fine. Black Shoes also expended from Yanastis. Both the teams, I mean, this early on, you can feel a lot of the tension here between both of them.
Yeah, a whole lot of that. But back to the point, you don't want to go for the turtle first. You want to actually try to shut down the Hanzo before he gets going. Bottom lane!
Bottom lane again. The setup is there, and there's the damage too. Can't run away from Kenji. Kenji for Kenji. And now still fighting for the purple buff. Joki there. Should be able to get out of this, has the back for the team too, and still trying to put the pressure on Super Rival. Going back to the points here, yeah, that's the thing. Now the turtle's nearly up. What's the play here?
What was your point, by the way?
The point is for Morocco. Oh,
Keep
no,
getting
they're going to keep on
interrupted again.
fighting.
You don't get it because the Spear of Alpha is going to be used again. Albert Rothstein will flicker out, but at what cost? As eventually he's going to go down 1 versus 3. Another kill on the board for Egypt. How about now, Mirko?
Okay. We gotta read the situation. It seems like they're not gonna go for a fight. But yeah, Morocco's composition is built for these choke points to stop people from invading. But Kenji again,
Oh.
this time gets a turtle.
Turtle secured.
Yeah, he was able to take it off the board. Do they have a XP difference? They don't. So Kenji just flat out won that Retribution battle because as we see, the Retribution battles have been taken and utilized already. Alpha doing the damage onto Kenji though. Should be able to get out for now. You want to take a look at the items real quick?
Yeah, Thunderbelt Rush for Atama is really just playing for utility here in these skirmishes. Meanwhile, that's a Corrosion Strike. Same timing almost as the Moscow, but he is a bit late. So even though they really haven't been able to shut Super Rival down, the fact that now they already have a turret up top, or sorry, down below, they can start to utilize the pressure they have with the turret taken down below to go into the purple buff. So even though Morocco have a composition built around protecting the Hanzo with the Curse of Blood, with the Lilia holding the choke points, this is an opportunity for Egypt to push the pace and stop the Hanzo from building those 3 out of power spikes.
Well, what about the power spikes coming in from the gold lane, right? What are we expecting here? Does Morocco get that power spike quicker? Or just the Moskov?
Definitely Ayato here, especially considering how he's been laning. He was actually ahead quite a bit earlier, but it seems Speedy has been able to find a way to equalize on the board, so they should be able to hit their power spikes relatively at the same time, item-wise. But obviously Ayato, he should be online just with a Starlium Scythe. Holy Crystal becomes another power spike, but yeah, as long as he gets a Feather of Heaven and a Starlium Scythe, it should be good, and they should be able to look for fights.
Yeah, with that too, I mean, this whole game, other than when the objective's up, they're just looking for these skirmishes time and time again. Here's going to be another one, a flicker with annoying Fury into the Spear of Alpha as they pick up Albert Rothstein and Yanastis as well. They might want more. Yato gets jumped on. They try to keep it going a little bit further. Now Kenji in trouble. It's a full-on fight versus Kenji. And Kenji gets taken out. It's a triple for Speedy. Back to the question, the scaling. I think now swings for Speedy here.
How do they do that? How does Egypt continuously do that, right? Because technically, if we're talking about that early portion of the game, it felt like Morocco had that fighting chance, but it's now a 4K gold lead for Egypt instantly, and look at this once again.
The confidence Splash is only going to use. Choki tries to get in, he goes in with a flicker, but there's the response from Albert. It's Yato that gets the kill, and still Alpha all by himself. He's going to wait for Speedy to join the fight, but it looks like Kenji will go get the objective. Securing the second one, last turtle of the game here, but for Egypt, furthering the goal lead they have. Still Alpha, even Ayato busy, has the backup, Speedy's there too, but I think it's up to them. They might still put the pressure here on the tier 2.
Egypt are basically just out macroing Morocco, right? The fact that, again, it looks like they just got that massive gold lead with a single fight, but actually it was multiple small victories again and again. Alpha though.
Oh, he is tanking, but he's tanking after going in Super Rival. To try to find the form, but they finally get him back to the human form, and now forcing him back off the orange buff. Egypt controlling this side of the map, still putting pressure here, even on this top side. But Morocco, what can they find? I mean, they kind of have their backs against the wall for now.
That was a 4v5, by the way.
Morocco are so far behind again. It looked like it was a big fight. They got them the gold lead. Joki should be fine here, no?
Oh, okay, Super Rival will be able to pick up a kill. Finally, and you know, begs the question, like, when does this Hanzo really start to shine? He's got a couple items now, I think, locked in, but still, you have to kind of sacrifice yourself going forward and taking the attention. Look at this Alpha. And how do you even deal with a stalwart like Alpha on this Thamus? Doesn't even pop the vengeance in some of these exchanges where he is going 1 versus 4, 1 versus 3.
I mean, again, right, for Egypt, multiple wins, they got the turret down below. It actually should enable them to invade into purple buff, but they were thinking 2 steps ahead. They were thinking that Morocco were going to be ready for that invade, so they went top and they rotated, out-rotated Morocco, got that big fight, and that's where the massive gold lead started building up. And now that they have the snowball, the Hanzo's not really a problem anymore. At least up until he finishes up the Golden Staff and then the Melted Gore. Then we'll see another power spike come up for Super Rival, but he's still miles away from getting that Melted Gore from even getting the Golden Staff. He's only just finished the DHS, and meanwhile, Speedy, just like his name,
What?
kind of shows he is speedy with it, and he does destroys Ayato up top.
Gone.
He's gone.
What happened?
He just built the Holy Trinity, right? That was a recent item that was given, and he was
fast
able to
timers.
burst out Ayato. We were talking about the timers coming in from both of these heroes, and you mentioned the Herod. Oh, wait a second, that's a lot of damage given. What?
Already going to use the black shoes. They're quite low. Lord's also taken with all this. One big distraction. Super Rival going in with Lord, but he won't be able to pick up the kill. Egypt still possibly looking for more, but it's right now Morocco so far behind in the game. I'm wondering if they can even defend against the Scorpions.
When did the Lord even get taken?
It was a lot of simultaneous movements, and this is what the composition can do when they get a snowball. With the Alpha, you can clear out the jungle so fast, you can get these neutral objectives without the help of the team. And with Alpha being there, together with Shen always just healing them back up, Alpha can tank up the damage, the motivation roll will be enough to get them back to full HP, and that's what you're seeing. They baited out the Holy Defense in the mid lane. If they still are able to manage the waves where it crashes together with the mid wave now coming down without a Holy Defense, ready for the base for the mid lane, they can actually go for the fight.
Oh, it's gonna be tough here, Alpha. Talking to Connery Inferno, and they're trying to hold down the bottom side while Morocco tries to deal with the Lord up top. Not sure if any kills are gonna convert there, but right now it's just all fronts. Egypt knocking. Holding on to Curse of Blood for Joki too. Gonna force them back, and there's the setup that they were looking for. Minoe and Fury gonna knock up multiple members into the Curse of Blood. As one falls, two, make it three. There's the double. Super Rival trying to keep them at bay on the front side, but he has to go back to heal up. It's only two down for Morocco, but their base completely destroyed as Egypt gonna punch it in. Spear of Alpha once again. They pick up another kill, and it looks like they'll go ahead and take the grand final and end the game with a wipeout.
2-0 clean sweep. In Casablanca, we saw the Moroccan magic firsthand.
Victory!
But to Egypt, the Moroccan magic will not be able to conquer them. Your first AEC 24 champions for MLBB. It's Egypt!
8 teams came into AEC, and a few days later, a plethora of matches later, this is still the team to look out for. This is still the team to beat.